thank you everyone for joining today. Draft.dev's monthly webinar series focused on all things developer marketing. We're joined by a couple of good friends today. Carolyn from DevRel agency, who you might recognize from last month's session where we dove into her research report that she puts out every year. We're also joined by Boris. He heads up DevRel over at Qualcomm. Great experience over there. Did a lot of good work. Give you guys a couple of seconds. You want to do a quick intro and expand a little bit on what you guys do in each of your organizations? Start with you, Karen.
Sure. Thanks for having me here again, Clayton. And I'm really excited to be speaking with Morris because we've done a lot of great work over the last little while too. But I'm Carol Lewko. I've got an agency called DevRel.agency. And what we do is we provide strategic guidance and tactical support for companies that are engaged in developer-led growth. And we focus on developer experience and removing friction. And I've been in the DevRel space for 20 some odd years, I guess, and probably most recognized for the book that I co-wrote with James Parton on developer relations. But it's great. It's a great space.
I am always recommending that book to people. I feel like every time I talk to a prospect, is one of the first links I said. Morris, could you give us a little bit more about what you guys are doing when it comes to developer marketing over at Qualcomm?
Yeah, sure. So the book, it is a must read, actually, for this community. And let me start. Yes, Clayton and Draft.dev. First of all, thank you very much for the hospitality today in your webinar space. I'm very glad to be here and thank you for this opportunity. Looking forward to this conversation with Caroline Lewko as well. So good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone. My name is Morris Novello. I am the head of developer marketing at Qualcomm. And here at Qualcomm, my responsibilities as a part of this team are divided in 4 different vectors. So the first one is what we call like a developer portal. So mapping all the developer journey into a digital representation. So putting together, presenting to developers how they can interact with our technology here at Qualcomm. The second element is about the go-to-market. So what are the campaigns? What are the touch points that we are building in order to can deliver to our developer community awareness and consideration, adoption, so on. The third component is evangelism. So showing actually how to developer, how they can use these technologies. And the fourth one is, I'm a big fan of it, is about listening or developer advocacy. So make sure that we have all the mechanisms in place where a company, the Fortune 500 company like Qualcomm, is also having the ear out there, understanding what the needs are, what are the gaps are to our developer community, and do as best as we can to bring it back through towards the engineering for the next of the products. So in a nutshell, this is what I'm working on with.
Awesome. Thanks for the quick intro, both of you. Today, the main subject is going to be diving into like the essential elements of designing and optimize a dev journey. So understanding your developers, mapping out that journey, defining what a journey is, optimizing touch points, measuring success, best practices. It's going to be what we're going to focus on that for like first 45 minutes. We'll save the last 15 minutes for Q&A. Please take advantage of the question and answer functionality in Zoom. We'll be able to drop in questions. We'll be able to answer up within the last 15 minutes there. So I think a great place, as always, to start is defining our subject matter for the day. So just real quick, how would each of you define developer journey? What does that mean to you when I say it?
I'll start off and give the Wikipedia answer that whatever that looks like. So in terms of the developer journey, really what it is being able to understand and track your customer, your user, in our case, because we're in developer relations, the developer, of how he initially finds out about you, he or she, I guess, or they initially find out about you, all the way until they adopt you, and then most importantly, scale with you. And it's being able to understand and track that journey and the touch points they have along the way. I would say it's probably the most important tool that you will use in developer relations, because it really becomes this roadmap for not only what your developers doing, but what you need to provide with them and how you need to track it along the way.
Totally. Great Wikipedia definition. Right on that.
For us, Clayton, very kind of a follow-up what Caroline just said, but a little bit, I add a little bit more like a, let's call it practical thing. So for us, the first is element why the definition of developer journey is about the awareness piece. Developer journey should contain an awareness component, right? Make sure that our developers community are there. They know Qualcomm. They don't know the Qualcomm, we're a company, right? They need to understand what are you bringing into their team. The second aspect is about developer journey should also contain element of how to reach. So how going where the developers are, right? And then because the end goal of the developer journey is about driving adoption, consumption. So developer can start to understand what is the value proposition, the benefit, the outcome, and then adding to their solution. And so this is in essence for us, what is the developer journey definition mantra that we are following here.
Totally. Makes sense. And now that we're to 5, let's maybe also, as we continue to move down the funnel here, why is it so important? I think that answer is really obvious for dev tool companies. Like, of course, it's important for dev tool companies to flesh out a healthy developer journey, but I think it's important to define why it's so important to maybe our larger companies that have technical elements to them, but may not necessarily have dev as their main focus. Why should individuals or organizations spend more time investing into the developer journey?
So if I start, Caroline, this, so for us, the end goal is about adoption, right? So it's important. Developer journey is very important because it is in a very kind of framework, structured way where developer can interact with technology. They go in one place, they go in one journey. They want to build a thermostat, or they want to build the control for a nuclear plant or something. They want to go into one place and to find everything they need in order to build the application they want. So one of the main kind of objective is about to reduce friction. One of the main objectives is about to reduce the time to market. Developers, all our colleagues, their friends that are in the school today, as we know, we have an idea in the morning. Okay, we want to put together this kind of pilot, this kind of hello world, small prototype in the afternoon, and we need to have all the elements that I need from IDs, debugging, profiling, tooling, driver, that I can build a prototype in a few hours. Doesn't need to be like the full-fledged product of completely, shiny application, but the key components of the functionality should be there. So this is why it is important to have this developer journey representation across technologies.
I would add to that too that it becomes this plan for you and any other teams that you work with. So it can, dovetail into other strategies and other activities that a company might do. It gives you that roadmap to take a look at, and it becomes important for you to see the journey, not only all of the pieces, but, we talk about signposting for developers. So sure, you want them to go here, here, and here, but are you providing that journey in the way that they need it when they need it? And are you signposting from one point to the another? And then are you able to also track what you're doing? Because you're going to have to be doing some of your own reporting as well. So once you've got that journey, it's got the pieces together that you can go on.
Totally. Could not agree more. I feel like so many of these webinars we do at Draft, we end up focusing at some point in the conversation about point of light, like you were saying, Morris, how quick can I build a demo in an afternoon? Can I figure out how to use your product? Otherwise, I'm moving on to the competitor. If I can't decide it and figure out what's going on, and that ultimately comes down to what we're talking about today, that dev journey. Like, how can I come in, use your product effectively and quickly? Is key. It is sort of like step one. So on that note, where do you start if you're a new dev tool, or you got, or maybe not new, but you've decided to make the investment in fleshing out and really building a productive dev journey? Where are sort of the starting points that you think organizations should consider?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about persona, 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 developer, developer, developer. We need to understand the for sure what what are you building, right? What is your need? What is your use cases? And then walk. I call it like a walk backwards, right? From company that producing technology platforms like us, right? It's about understanding who are the developers, who are the persona, because within developers, of course, we are talking about mobile, for example, for Qualcomm, we talk about mobile developers, we're talking about embedded systems developer, Windows developer, automotive, radio frequency developer. So there's also the hardware component developers as well. Understanding what are they, their use cases, and what are the elements that they need in order to build the use cases. Because for us, we have an embedded system designer that the pipeline, the workflow is different from an Android developers. So we have also this kind of differentiation and the different way of building to kind of to design the developer journey.
And that's a good point, Morris, where, a company like Qualcomm, you might think, oh, it's just developers, or a lot of folks think we're just going after developers. But there's so many different types of developers in terms of the technologies that they use, in terms of the projects that they're working on, in terms of the pain points that they need to solve, the goals that they have, where they're located. And so it's really important to narrow that down for your particular developer tool. The other thing to think about is it might just not be, one persona for that particular tool. Because when you think about developers as decision makers, they may be the decision maker, they may be the influencer, they may have somebody else on their team that they need to work with that particular tool set that does a different piece of the technology, or they're working with a project manager that wants to look at it from a different perspective. So yeah, it's developer's just not this one straight up person.
I love that you guys brought that up because it segues or intros our conversation next month perfectly. We're talking with our friends over at Catchy, Content Lip, a couple other like dev related agencies, and that exactly what you guys are talking to. I feel like dev marketing, everyone just lumps everyone together under dev marketing. Even like data scientists get thrown in there, like DevOps professionals get thrown in there. It's like, and they differ so drastically between industry, between language, between focus, between job role, title, like seniority. It's good to spend a lot of time just figuring out who your people are.
Yeah, and then that helps drive your activities, which is part of your touch points in the journey, and then what your messaging is going to be too, and where you will find these people.
Exactly. Could not.
What we observe as well, this is about the recent actually, because if you think about us at Qualcomm, we come from the mobile history kind of pedigree, let's call it. But now we're going to computing, we're going to XR, AR, VR, we're going into automotive, we're going into embedded systems and so on. And one of the requests that I'm having almost every day from developers is also, what are these kind of also cross-selling points? So I am I'm an embedded software engineer. I'm building robotics type of application, but now I want to add AR, VR capability. So how also this kind of two developer journey with this intersection of it, right? And they need to understand how we can simplify the ease of use to combine different technology. I was talking yesterday with one of our colleague about the use of AR, VR in healthcare. from signal coming from like a X-ray type of machine going into AR/VR devices, right? And how you can move 2D into 3D, right? And leveraging embedded systems signals coming from the real world. And so combining this kind of connecting the dots, this kind of convergence of this kind of different developer journey is also an interesting point. That's a request that we are having from the developers today.
Interesting. Very, very solid point. Okay. So we've defined what a dev journey is, why it's important, maybe where your initial starting point should be. Let's start talking about mapping out that journey, right? Like you got to build your CLs, your roadmap and fill it in. So what are the essential stages in a developer journey? Like when you're like, okay, where are we? What are the milestones along engaging with that individual? Let's start, we'll have more start this time. Since Carolyn, you started the last couple. Where do you feel the major milestones are within the dev journey?
Okay, I will start. So the first is from us is about I call like align. We need to have the alignment with the business units, right? Understanding what are their goals in terms of the developer community, and this is for me usually is my first step, right? The second step is about defining the strategy. So, for example, if the objective is about increase awareness and consideration, right? Usually, I define the strategy and I get the buy-in from my leadership teams, right? Across can be in developer marketing, but also the BU side. And after that, when we got the buy-in, then you're going into what I call developer journey mapping. So defining the pipeline. So from discover, evaluate, learn, build, scale, all different kind of phases of journey, mapping what are the content related to each of these kind of phases, and implementing into a portal, into the developer, the digital representation I was talking about at the beginning, right? So this is typically the steps that I am going through.
Yeah, I agree. Can I share my screen just to show the developer journey?
Yeah, totally. You should have access.
Tends to be the starting point for lots of folks.
Same image. I can also.
Yeah. Does that show up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the developer journey map, this is something that we created. And it's meant to be just a starting point to think about all the different points. And as Morris pointed out, discover, evaluate, learn, build, and scale. And, again, what we do when we're with clients too is we start off going, what's your product and what are you trying to do with it? Where does it fit? What does a developer need to evaluate it, learn, try something? Because we all know developers want to try it before they're going to give their go ahead and want to shop with it. And then let's not forget about scale too, because your product is going into their product and they need to grow with you. So, like Morris was saying, part of that feedback loop and getting that information from developers about what's working, what's not, what do we do next, what happened, what are you doing with it, all are really important points. And the one point I just want to make about this journey map is it's not static from the perspective of you may have different points at different parts of the journey, based on what your developers need and what your product offers. And it's important to always revisit it to see how it's working and what needs to change with it as well.
I think the touch point sections down here is really interesting. I assume, it's not one size fits all. Picking where you need to hit individuals at each of these stages probably comes a lot down to those percentages you initially built that journey.
And what Morris will find too, from a lot of the companies who have bigger companies and lots of different departments and people involved, is who in your company is responsible for these particular categories. So developer marketing is taking a look at SEO and doing some of the big events and making sure that the advertising there's and newsletters and that kind of outreach. But who's responsible for the docs, tutorials, and started guide? Who's putting some of the tutorial workshops together? Might be different groups. So that corporate alignment and the communication and getting that all coordinated internally is super important, because from a developer's perspective, you're just Qualcomm. And I don't know who you belong to and where you fit. I'm just assuming that you're thinking about me all the time and it's going to work for me. To me, you're one company. You're not all these different birds.
And then also the goals, right? Based on the goals of the company, right? This journey can also be there is an equilibrium, but then it can be towards more in the awareness, less on the scale. And this is also the element, the change, you were talking about Clayton earlier, right? So there's different kind of size and formation.
Just stop sharing.
There's nowhere. I love this. We will have some of that on after call. So I think that as usual comes down to defining those personas, right? Like that's whether it's building the developer journey, starting the dev journey. How do you guys go about doing your homework when it comes to defining those personas? So where do you find to be the most useful points of research when you're digging into your customer base, your user base, figuring out, all right, who is our persona?
Yeah. So, in terms of, Qualcomm use a lot of slash data research. You mentioned about Catchy, Caroling, as well as a great developer survey report. We leverage all the data coming from consultants, from agents, right? This is one of the steps, right? But usually we start to find a persona. We start from the use cases. What do you need to build? You need to build a video surveillance type of application, average our arbitrary Gen 2 boards, right? We start to understand who are the decision maker, from the product manager, from the the implementers, from the architect, that need to be involved to develop the solution, right? As we mentioned earlier, we working backwards from that, right? Typically, we are using a dog fooding type of approach here at Qualcomm. We call it internal dog fooding and an external dog fooding. So the internal dog fooding, we have a team as a part of the developer engineering team, where they try to test this kind of use cases that I was mentioning earlier. And then also, this is one of my kind of objective in terms of my work from the last couple of years, is about forming this kind of developer advocacy boards, council, whatever you want to call it, externally, just to have also their feedback, their their opinion, how we can implement this kind of workflow. And once we have this feedback from this workflow, we map in a journey that is related to content. The previous slide that Karen was sharing is, we are going to kind of map content to each of these kind of boxes: internal touch point, external touch point. Can change, of course, not in all the boxes over there, but this is our kind of process when we are going to build a journey for a particular persona.
I will just add to that like, you're going to do your homework. Right? You can't just assume that because often when you assume, you really miss some of those finer points about what they're looking for, what their needs are, and where to find those developers. What they're listening to, and there's the research that you can do on your own, whether you're doing some survey with your own developers, or the focus groups, or some one-on-ones. You've got your advisory board, like one said. There's lots of secondary research out there. But I think just going out, what we often do too, is we'll just go out and find a .NET developer or whatever. But like, what are you doing? Like, what's interesting? What are you looking for? What kind of information do you need? just to really go and find those folks that can help share that information.
And usually developers, they're not silent. Developers,
Yeah.
this is, they're not shy either, right? So they really tell you in your face what is working, what is not working, what I want, right? And if yeah, so this is I love actually to have this kind of, because this is actually is about a feet, like you put your feet in the reality, right? So we are working for the company. We make sure that we are driving the goals of the company, but also we need to listen what the customer, in our case, developers needs are.
And like what you're doing with the hackathons that you've got a couple of hackathons coming up. What a great way to like get developers to give it a try and give you feedback right there and then. That's a perfect way.
And for every if I can add a small thing, so in every of this kind of engagement, like I call like a street engagement. So when we go out there, also meetups, hackathons, software contests, and so there is always, for every activity we run, there's always like a one kind of new lights to turn on, new idea, new features, new approach that is coming. So it's gold dust. Amazing.
They're always true, these things, and you go, I never realized that somebody would do something like come up with something like this. The innovation, getting out there and talking to those innovators and learning things you never would have thought of.
It's not directly related to developer journeys, but I think like low hanging fruit is always like those squeaky wheels that you may have within your user base or customer base, and people are regularly in like your customer service logs or emailing you a lot or reaching out, making those recommendations. Empower those people. Like that could be high quality, free content or free advice, or free feedback. Like put them in a position to assist you guys. They're usually like said, devs they're not quiet. They like to be loud, and like give them an opportunity to be loud. You could have a whole part of your site dedicated to letting them voice how to use your product effectively, use cases, all that good stuff. And it's they're usually jump at the opportunity to do so. So let's really chat a little bit about optimizing those dev journeys now too. Like I love what the points you guys made about research, mapping out that journey. Like sometimes there could be too many voices in the room. It could be like, here's what the PMM thinks, here's what general marketing thinks, here's what DevRel thinks, here's what our engineers think. And then like it could end up being sort of scattered in your approach. And a lot of times, when we start working with a new client, it's like, okay, let's organize and figure out what are the main goals, priorities moving forward? What are some of those other common mistakes or pitfalls that you guys see working with your own company, maybe a Qualcomm or, some of your clients that you've worked with, Caroline?
Yeah. Go ahead, Connor.
One of the things that, again, coming back to knowing your developer and that knowing that, again, you might be looking for an embedded developer, but your product might be available for somebody who's got 1 year's of experience and 20 years. And don't make we would say err on the side of doing it for that lowest common denominator or the entry-level developer, because if they can get it, the other ones should be able to figure it out, no problem. But if you're missing out on some of those pieces, assuming somebody knows the information, then you're gonna miss, a great number of developers that you could usually work with. The other piece I like to say too is, don't forget that you're only part of a developer day. Developers use between like 10 and 20 tools to create what they need to do. And on any given day, they're dealing with so many of them all of the time. You're only part of a developer's day. So, make it easy for them to not have so much dissonance that they can't find out what they're working on, and don't inundate them also with your information, because they've got a lot of other things that are going on, and they've got their manager asking for this and somebody else looking for this. So keep in mind, a lot going on in somebody else's day.
So often you'll see doc sites that are just like overloaded info where the developer's like, give me your quick start guide. Where is it? How do I find it? Let me get rolling. Like I'll email you if I need the rest of this.
And then Clayton, I can also do some from my personal experience, right? and I call like a lesson learned through my careers. I think the common mistakes that, for example, I've been through in my life is the first one is the developer taking for granted the developer journey, right? The first. The second is always Caroline knows this kind of definition, like using always I call like the lower common denominator for the developer. Do not assume that the developer already knows is coming through your web portal or something. It's coming already that he knows how to leverage Windows on Snapdragon or RB32 Gen 2 type of technology, right? You are always to think to design this journey, assuming that they don't know, first of all, what is the technology, and they don't have any kind of experience, right? And then I'm a big fan of I call like a developer centric type of design. So starting from the developer, what they have to build, and then walking backwards and providing all the tools, all the information, documentation, but can be awareness, can be during design, can be all deployment phase that they need in order to build the first application projects. And then another thing, and I wanted to have Caroline opinion here, that she interacts as well with other companies, right? This is my observation here at Qualcomm. It's about do not build your developer journey considering that particular workload. Do not work in isolation. I was mentioning the example earlier that we are this kind of cross-selling. Cross-selling developer doesn't like this kind of work, and this kind of cross developer journey based on kind of multiple technology like IoT, NXR, IoT, automotive. So think about this, and this, for example, in a company like us, there are two different views, two different business units, right? But we need to make sure that we find the common touch points and then working on this kind of common. There is one or two, that's okay. Let's start with that.
And also across, and we see with big companies that have, it's engineering has a touch point with the developer, product has a touch point with the developer, sales has a touch point with the developer, community has a touch point with the developer, marketing has a touch point with the developer. Really needs to be coordinated within the company as to what's being provided, that the messaging follows what the developer is looking for, that it's signposted from point to point, and you want to be able to track that along the way as well, and have that really smooth handoff for, when it goes from marketing to the docs. Are they being able to find it? Are you telling the same story? Making sure that those handoffs and that coordination really takes place across.
Could not agree more. This is easier to happen at very large companies. I'm sure Morris has a lot of experience on this front, but it's death by too many cooks in the kitchen. Like if too many people have opinions on something going up or going live on the website, if people aren't aligned, you've got to have the ultimate individual that makes us all on if something's going to happen or not. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a good point. So who owns the developer journey? Somebody needs to own the developer journey to make sure that they're watching the back. For sure.
Absolutely.
So you've got a solid developer journey rolling. You've had it live for a while. Proud of where you're at, but when you're looking at it, say it's internal Morris for you guys or Carolyn, a new client. After the first few months, where do you see the opportunities to optimize that developer journey after you initially get going? What are some of the metrics you keep an eye on, and then how do you optimize towards those metrics?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. Optimization developer journey, I call like a CI/CD type of role, because developer, there is always this dynamic. I think Caroline mentioned earlier, right? It's not static. Developer journey is something that change kind of probably month over month. It's based on as well what are the kind of trendy use cases that are upcoming. So in order to do that, how we can optimize, here at Qualcomm, we use a lot of data. We use the data to optimize, right? So we use this kind of top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel kind of approach, right? Top of the funnel, if you think about the top of the funnel, you mean like a developer hub landing pages. So we monitor the traffic, the incoming traffic. So the unique visitors. Also, another important element and KPI we're using is about how many that particular IP address, this person, stay inside our pages in time, right? So so we monitor at the top of the funnel impression on the social media side. So we distribute messaging, and then we track what is the impression over there, and we also track what is the click-through rate and where they're going, right? In order to, and then based on that, for example, I stay on top of the funnel for now. Based on that, if you see that actually this is a example, Caroline, right? We did last year with you guys, right? On when we launched the Windows of Snapdragon messaging, we find out actually that in the awareness side, the high level general positioning of this platform was well received, but we didn't have a lot of conversion into documentation, into sample code, sample apps, and so on. So we start to introduce also at the top of the level messaging, how messages such as I have this kind of problem, okay, and I want to resolve related to a driver, optimizing GPU, and so on, right? And then the call to action was going directly into a piece of documentation showcase how to resolve this, right? And we found out that this kind of conversion, really suddenly, kind of we improved the conversion like more than 200% from night to day type of thing, right? So it's always to have this kind of continuous improvement, continuous development, and then to have the KPIs, the metrics in place to monitor, and then controlling, understanding where the pitfalls, where the things are not going well, and then change. It's about a trial and error type of approach as well.
Totally. I could not agree more. I feel like whether it's documentation or dev journey or marketing strategy, people launch it and then forget to optimize. And just I think deciding what those measurables are and then making sure you don't have too many, figuring out, okay, what are the two that we're really going to be paying attention to and focusing on is pretty critical.
One of the things we do too is we help companies and we do friction audits. So we'll get a couple of developers to go try and build a hello world and document what they find. And sometimes the friction points are just, they can't find what they're looking for. Parts of the documentation are missing, so they don't understand what they're supposed to do. There's no place for them to go for support, or you can tell by looking at the support channel that nothing's getting answered. So there actually are a lot of different places to go. And also there was a company that we did a friction audit for a number of years ago, and it was something like just to get between discover and evaluate, a developer had to go through like 50 different places to get to the information I need to finally go to the next point. It should have taken 2, right? Like it really should have taken 2. So just really try to make sure that that information is succinct and synthesized and well written. We often say too that the product and engineering folks should not be writing the documentation. Number one, they don't often write well, and documentation does need to be written well, needs to be edited well as well. And because they become so familiar with the product, they just forget all this. Oh, well, of course you're supposed to, do this before you do this. Oops, I forgot. Well, the oops, I forgot becomes a major friction point for developers. And so having somebody, the internal dog foodie, so they can look through and walk through it, or having somebody externally do it as well.
That's a huge point.
Investing. So now we have this kind of digital representation of the journey, right? We have the capability really to test. So it's about A/B testing almost every day. Big fan of it.
Huge. We run it to all the time writing content for our clients. We have very talented engineers and technical professionals to write for us, but they don't work for that company day in and day out. So what some of those internal engineers just assume as common knowledge, this one that works in the same space, but not specifically in that product, may not be as aware about. And those, are easy gaps to potentially miss unless you test it like you guys are talking about it. Pretty critical. So let's use the last 5 minutes here to, I would say, look ahead a little bit. So where are you guys seeing the potential room for growth over the next couple of years in the dev journeys when it comes to maybe emerging trends, or maybe there's some stuff that just needs to be focused on more moving forward?
We agreed we're not talking about AI, right? Because everybody talks about AI.
Too much. Yes.
Yeah, so I will probably not talk about AI, but we are using a lot of AI actually. So trends. This is a good one. Advocacy is about a key element. So embedding, the product-led growth type of approach. I call like a developer-led growth approach, right? So my in my small world here, what I'm trying to change internally is to capture the feedback from hackathon, from software contest, from forums, from all this kind of advocacy type of mechanism, right? And to embed this feedback into the developer go to market, right? The developer journey mapping. So this is where I see kind of in particular company like Qualcomm, right, that are kind of coming from the hardware side. Because if you look about a SaaS type of company, they have this kind of developer approach already embedded into the product, right? How do the designer approach this kind of freemium approach? You can try out the software, and then the engineering team embedded their feedback through the tickets automatically, right? But for a company like Qualcomm, so we're entering in this kind of phase now, and then I'm super glad actually to drive this transformation.
Great tools out there that can support that, get that developer feedback embedded in what the engineers are doing. One thing too that we helped a company do last year was, and I thought it was just such a smart thing that they were doing. So, they were understanding that developer experience was important, that there were a number of different groups involved in that, and they started to change the metrics for the engineering and product teams around the developer experience and around that developer journey. And so we all create this rubric about, it's not just about, pushing out, I got my Jira tickets done for the day I'm done, but did you create the documentation piece that goes along with that? And if you don't get, you don't get your check mark for the day because you clicked off your Jira ticket. And to look at if we've got a great product and great engineering, are we actually, just at a minimal level? Have we actually reached best practice, or are we actually innovative in how we're developing the product and how we're delivering the product to our developers? And so really being able to measure that and get the whole team aligned with it. If they're not measured, if their job doesn't depend on it, it'll be harder for that kind of work to get done. And it takes a community inside of a company to really meet that developer experience.
I love that answer. Even on our last webinar together, I asked if you'd been starting to see C-suite roles pop up that are tied in developer marketing or DevRel. It sort of goes to that answer. You see companies, particularly in the publicly traded world, that all measurements are tied to how's this making us money. And I'm a firm believer in long-term health versus short-term gains. So I think, are your developers happy? Will quickly get tied to if we're making money or not before you realize it. I'm big fan of that response. So, all right, let's get into some the questions here. We've got a couple. This first one, for smaller companies or startups with limited resources, what are the most important parts of the dev journey that definitely can't be ignored? I'll let you guys answer, but personally, I think this goes back to like how quickly can I create a demo or like figure out how to use your product. I think that would be my initial focus if I had limited resources.
Yeah, I think absolutely. In terms of what you say, Cloud is absolutely right. Understanding, uh, how showcase how they can use the product of this particular SMB company to the colleague that asked this question. But I'll go back on what we discussed earlier. Understanding really well your persona, understanding because if you are, I was in a startup before joining Qualcomm, so I did a startup experience. Yeah. So understanding really well what you're building, because the use cases are a little bit limited when you are in the SMB that is even better direction, and then all kind of identify, go where your developers are, and then sharing with them what are the tool, what are the demo, the software artifacts that you can share in order for them to start to build the demo, or even that a kind of an application, right, phase.
Yeah, then I like to go back to, like, you got to have a good product to start, and it's got to be ready for developers. And then you've got to show them what to be able to do with it. So even if it's some just basic documentation or that quick start guide that shows them how to get started and the pieces that they need, if that's not there and they can't find that, you can go to all the conferences in the world and spend a lot of time writing content and putting it on and filling up your LinkedIn profile and all your posting. But if they can't find where you are and they don't understand what how to get started with it, you're just wasting your time and money on everything else. Get that done right first.
We've run into a few organizations where even internally they struggle to define what they are and what they help with, and then they even struggle to build within their own product. And I'm like, you don't even need to be worrying about like general marketing yet. You need to be fleshing out, the functionality of what you're selling. Because if you guys internally are having trouble communicating and using it, your potential customers are never going to be able to.
Yeah. I have to just jump in there on that one too. And, there is a mistake that a lot of folks make when they've got this developer product, they think it's ready. And it's like, I want to hire somebody, I'm going to hire a developer advocate. And they forget again that there's so much strategic guidance that's needed for this product and a strategy that needs to be created and the developer journey map that needs to be put together before you can go out and advocate for it. And so, I would say get a senior developer relations person who can help you provide that before you hire, get that person that all you want to do is that outreach.
I see so many times where like startups are hiring new sales guy, new sales guy, new sales guy. They still haven't hired someone to just manage their developer market, DevRel or experience, an evangelist of some sort. Yeah, great. Interesting choice. Okay, so next question here. How do you balance providing comprehensive resources for developers without overwhelming them too much with information? We touched on this a little bit, but I think it's, we definitely dive into it some more. You can definitely overwhelm people with depth by information, particularly if your product does a lot or has a lot of use cases. Yeah, it's very start you wars. How do you guys approach this? Because you do a lot at Qualcomm. It could be easy to get lost in the resources with you guys.
Yeah, so we also, in the last year, actually, we redesigned the developer portal. That's a developer.qualcomm. If you want to learn more, I recommend to your audience as well to check out the org. But we completely redesigned it, and the approach is what you guys just mentioned, right? It's about to simplify the through signposting, right? What are the phases? What are uh, the steps of the journey that enable you to build your application in very kind of short time as possible, right? So we spend the last 1 year and a half, for example, to implement or to redesign actually all the documentation approach, right? Before was a very kind of a hardware data sheet type of oriented type of documentation, and now is much more how to get started, right? So how to implement that particular kind of first hello world to turn on like LED lights or something like that in a board, and all this content as we are putting together, signposting clearly through step 1, step 2, step 3, and then also and then we the last year actually we this is like a net new at Qualcomm. Actually, we engage with platforms such as digital platform Discord, where we create this kind of community on that particular workload, and we interact with developers. We have roughly around 2,000 developers, starting almost from scratch to zero, on this kind of engagement, right? So we are kind of providing engineers, subject matter experts on this kind of rooms, on this kind of dedicated social channel where they can answer question, debugging, and then resolving real world problems with the developer. And we observe that actually the community, they tell, can you do more? Can you do more office hours? Can you post more content and so on? So this is a great feedback we are receiving as well.
Love the job Discord. I think it's an underrated tool for a lot of things. It can be a great resource.
And I would say, you've got to start with a really good architecture of your content. And for docs in particular, there's some great tools out there from the DocuSource to the Doc 360, depending on the robustness that you need. Developers are used to seeing that, that left-hand margin that's going to show them all, what are the pieces that they need, and it opens up to show them some more. So there should be a really good flow of information. You've got to have that doc architecture and think about that flow first. And then again, think about your developers and who they are. So some of them are going to want to read through all of it. Some of them want to just go, oh, here's the quick start, I'm going to go here. Here's a tutorial, I'm just going to go here. We're seeing more and more in lots of places where we're thinking about neurodivergency. And some people like to read, and some people like to see a diagram, and some people like to see a video based on how they comprehend things. So having different pieces, and I think having that and explaining what it is doesn't necessarily mean it's overwhelming. It's having a right piece available for the right developer. And also think about, depending on what your product is, there's going to be different workflows that they're going to need to follow based on what they're building. And there might be different workflows for your particular developer tool. So, having those available for developers, so they can quickly go, I'm working on this. I need to figure out how to do this. Got a workflow for that, and I can follow that. But there's lots of different ways to just break up that content.
Love it. Absolutely critical is the flow throughout the documentation itself. Guys, I think that's our last question. I think we're going to call it. That was a great webinar. Morris, Carolyn, thank you guys so much for joining today. If you want to see a really effective developer experience, definitely check out Qualcomm. They know what they're doing over there. And then if you ever need help with building your developer experience, definitely reach out to Carolyn and their organization over there at DevRel.agency. But as usual, Draft.dev, we're here for your technical content needs. Everyone join us in February. Next month, we're going to be speaking with Catchy and Content Lift about those, unique developer individuals or technical perspectives. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining today. We'll send a recording out in the coming days. Thank you guys. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Clayton. Thank you, Carolyn. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.